Seamus Bruner is the director of research at the Government Accountability Institute. He has a new book, and he calls it Controligarchs, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. And that kind of scares me, especially in light of President Xi and his visit with Biden. And, considering Biden has never called out China on unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, never called them out on COVID, never called them out on the spy balloon, never calls them out on their hostile maneuvers against our fighter jets in international airspace or hostile maneuvers in international waterways against our Navy. Could it be that Joe Biden is compromised by China? Makes you wonder. Here's Biden talking about the upcoming meeting with President Xi. We're not trying to decouple from China. Listen.
How would you define success with your meeting with President Xi?
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up the phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our military still have contact with one another. We can't take, as I told you, we're not trying to decouple from China. But what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better. From my perspective, if in fact the Chinese people who are in trouble right now economically, if the average if the average citizen in China was able to have a decent paying job, that benefits them and it benefits all of us. But I'm not going to continue to sustain the support for positions where if we want to invest in China, we have to turn over all our trade secrets.
All right, Seamus Bruner joins us now. He works with Peter Schweitzer at the Government Accountability Institute. They do phenomenal work. You might remember all of this information regarding the Biden family syndicate came from Peter's book, Secret Empires. And his new book, by the way, Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, is destined to be a bestseller. How are you, sir?
Sean, it's great to be with you. Peter Schweitzer and I, we follow the money. We followed it to James Comey and found the money he was getting from defense intelligence contractors through the revolving door. We followed it to the Bidens. And now we followed it all the way to the top, to the globalist elites. I call them the Controligarchs. And what we've found is really shocking stuff. First time ever, we've crunched the numbers and found that men like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all of whom love China, by the way. They don't want to decouple from China. They want to make the U.S. more like China in a lot of ways. You saw that in the pandemic. You see it with the censorship and the deplatforming of conservatives. We found that they each have added tens of billions of dollars to their personal net worth since the pandemic began. Now, that may not surprise the savvy listeners of your show, but what really blew me away was how they're making their money. And they're doing it by constructing tyrannical systems like the censorship and taking the Hunter Biden laptop story off of Facebook. And each of these systems that they're building are beginning to control every aspect of our lives.
Well, it's happening. Go into what the premise of this book is. For example, your investigation now took more than 2 years, and it is, unbelievable, the amount of footnotes, the amount of work you did on this. You picked 3 specific investigations: the issue of COVID, the issue of censorship, the issue of artificial intelligence, which was part of the deal that Biden made this week with President Xi, which I don't like. And that is that he makes this big deal saying, oh, well, we both agree that we'll never use artificial intelligence when it comes to any nuclear technology. Why would we ever trust the communist Chinese ever again?
It's so true, Sean. And you hear this all the time, that COVID is over, it's in the past. No, COVID was a blueprint for the future. It showed that the pandemic was profitable, the lockdowns were lucrative, and the control that this offered equaled a lot of cash for these controligarchs. So, yeah, the systems you mentioned, energy. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. You go to your thermostat, you try to turn it down, but it's locked. You can't control the temperature in your own home. Now, this may sound like some conspiracy theory. It's not. It's already happening. And Jeff Bezos and Amazon and Google, they're making these so-called smart thermostats, and people in Colorado and in Texas and even in Gavin Newsom's Communist Republic of California have experienced not being able to set the temperatures in their own homes. Regarding the food systems, Everybody knows that Bill Gates is buying up a lot of farmland, but most people don't know is how or why Gates, this former software salesman, is doing it, and why he's doing it is he's cornering the food supply. He's pushing for regulations like banning cattle under the guise of saving the planet. When AOC goes out and says that cow flatulence is going to end the world, she didn't just dream this up. It comes from a white paper from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the World Economic Forum in Davos. And, we went through mountains of financial filings and IRS 990s to really find out what the food agenda is here. It's why Bill Gates is investing in these fake meat companies. He thinks that if you eat a fake lab-grown hamburger, you're going to save the planet. Actually, it just enriches him. And then on the information front, Sean, everybody's, we're all very familiar, some more than others, about how the censorship of the big tech companies is affecting our lives, affecting how we can share information with each other. This is just the beginning. These controligarchs, they're harvesting your data, they're ratcheting up AI, and they're going to use it to eliminate as many of your jobs as possible. Some estimates up to 40% of the jobs just gone. It's happening right now. It's no coincidence that Bill Gates-backed OpenAI, that's the ChatGPT maker, is funding studies on universal basic income. So, it's pretty frightening stuff. It's happening right now. It's not too late, but we need to be armed with the facts.
Well, we do need to be armed with the facts. All right, quick break. More with Seamus Bruner. He is the Director of Research for the Government Accountability Institute. His new book is out, Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life. Amazon.com, Hannity.com, bookstores all around the country. Seamus Bruner is with us with the Government Accountability Institute. His brand new book just out this week, Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life. Amazon.com, Hannity.com, bookstores all around the country. The fact that the Biden family syndicate, and Peter pointed this out in Secret Empires, and the Biden family did, $1 billion that later became $1.5 billion with the Bank of China. We now have the WhatsApp message, thanks to Congressman James Comer of the House Oversight Committee. I'm sitting here with my father. He's talking to a top CEFC. That's the China energy conglomerate, state-run. We're wondering why you didn't keep your commitments. And between everybody he knows and my ability to hold a grudge, you're going to regret not following through on what you promised. And lo and behold, 5 days later, $5 million ends up in one of their shell corporations identified by James Comer. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's right, Sean. Your listeners know very well how the Biden family have sold out this country to communist China, but they haven't done it alone. And in a lot of ways, you look at Joe Biden and you think he's not really in control of a lot of his own faculties. There's got to be some other people pulling the strings. And the big tech guys, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg keeps a copy of Xi Jinping's writings on his desk. Shockingly and bizarrely, Mark Zuckerberg asked Xi to give his child, choose a name in Chinese for Zuckerberg's firstborn child. Bill Gates, likewise. He's been for decades working hand in glove with the CCP, helping them to censor their own opposition within China on platforms like he's got Skype, and he has messaging platforms through Microsoft. He helps China identify its dissident journalists. And so what all this really amounts to, and you really saw it last night or the other night in California with the standing ovation, people like Larry Fink from BlackRock, they don't want to decouple from China, obviously. They like China. They like the Chinese system, the efficiency. They call it efficiency during the pandemic. Bill Gates and even Tony Fauci praised the efficiency of China. They want to be able to use that efficiency on us.
Well, I think that's 100% true, but they have a history of never playing fair. I don't think Joe has the stomach or the willingness to ever confront our number one geopolitical foe that has now been pushed into the arms of Vladimir Putin and the mullahs in Iran, which I call the new axis of evil. Am I wrong on that?
Not at all, Sean. And George Soros is a big character in this book. He has said that China is essential for building the new world order. George Soros, of course, is funding these anti-American and pro-Hamas groups that are destroying the country.
Have you been able to trace that money directly back to him?
Well, his Open Society network is funding a lot of these groups, yes.
And is that all his money?
The Open Society Institutes? Yes. That's George Soros' money. And what's even more shocking, actually, is that George Soros, we were wondering if he was even going to be around by the time the book came out. So we tracked down each of his children, and Alexander Soros has just been put in charge. He's the heir to the dark money fortune. He's even more radical than his father.
Let me ask you about this. You talk in the book a lot about, for example, the likes of Bill Gates, or you talk about other people, Silicon Valley, and the great reception, for example, we saw from them. I assume that this is a big part of why you call it Controligarchs. And I don't think, obviously you've coined the term in that sense. What are they doing that the American people need to know the most?
Well, right now, the digital ID is a very important issue that people need to know more about. I mean, just last week, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the United Nations, the Rockefeller Foundation, they hosted an event called 50 in 50, where they're saying that they're going to roll out digital ID regimes in 50 countries within 5 years. That's just right around the corner. And you see a huge push from companies like BlackRock and Larry Fink to get behind digital ID. And once they can link all of your data up to a centralized database and tie it to a digital ID, this will be like your gun purchases or, like anything that you buy, they are using kind of the AI to create profiles on you and find out how opposed to the Biden regime you might be. This is exactly what China has. It's a social credit score system. It's a de facto social credit score system. They're very on board with that system. BlackRock's on board with it. Microsoft and Bill Gates are on board with it. And so you see, like I said, they're not trying to decouple from China. They're borrowing their pages from the Chinese Communist Party playbook, and they're trying to implement them right here in the USA.
Well, we appreciate it. I hope people will pay attention to this book. It's called Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life. It's on Amazon.com. We put a link on Hannity.com, now in bookstores all around the country. Seamus Bruner, we thank you. Appreciate you being with us. 800-941-SEAN is our number.